All right, so I'm gonna start making some basic YouTube videos that show you some of the things that have helped me in my workflow in Ableton Live. Now, this is Ableton Live 12, and I always feel like a person should start with a template of some sort. You don't have to, but it just kind of speeds up the workflow. So you need to know what are the things that you use the most, things that are kind of standard for what you're going to use. For instance, here's my master chain, the main, right? So I always use Tone Booster's Loud Master, and I always have it set on that preset. That's my master chain. I set that with haze as the natural width. And this is just so I can see the waveform as it go down. You don't have to have this. But whatever your master chain is, set that first. Then I would say whatever you're going to use on your returns. So these down here are the 3 returns I have. So on the drum bus, I have Roar, a preset that I use. And then I have Valhalla drum air. So that's another preset that I use. And I just put those two together. And then whenever I need it on one of these, it's set on A. And then all I gotta do is turn up A to the, sound that I want. Same thing goes for the Volt compressor or Dr. Vi, which I don't use as much. But if I need my 303 sounds, then I add these in, right? But they're already on my template. I put my kicks, snares, and hats all separate and you use simpler. So all I have to do is go down to my drums. These are my drums. If I need a hat, I listen to the hat, and I'll just grab one and drop it in. One shot classic means I have to hold it. Oh, let me get to one shot is obviously one shot, and slice is where you can go in and slice points. Okay. So if you're going to use just Ableton's slicer and you want to cut your stuff up here, all your sensitivity and your slice by and all that stuff is all in here. So I probably use simpler the most, more than any other thing in here other than the EQ. And so sometimes it's good to have them, but you don't really need them set up, because if you just take a sample and drag it down, it automatically puts it in a simpler. So that's pretty simple. But you want to have these MIDI tracks set up if you're going to use MIDI. If you're going to just use audio, it's pretty simple. You just drag it to the desktop and you'll see that it automatically creates an audio track. And then you could just drag different samples and place them wherever you want. And it's pretty simple. Okay. Right click and you can set the scale for the grid of your track. So that's pretty much all you got to do. Pretty simple on that. So audio, just drag it in, drop it on the timeline. When it comes to the MIDI tracks, you'll need to right click over here and insert a MIDI, or learn the key command, which everything just about has a key command. So for instance, Command T is for an audio. Then you have Shift Command T is for a MIDI. So if you can learn those things, you'll be good. All right, next thing I like to do is have my kick, snare, and hats ready. Do I use them all the time? Absolutely not. If I'm pulling in samples, I may not. So just depends. My bass is always set up. I use Trillion. I have my favorite bass right there. It's a muted bass. I put a bass fattener. That's a Roar preset. You can just grab it out the Roar thing. By the way, if you don't know what Roar is, it's a distortion, but it's a really good one. And then I use a glue compressor, which is for the bass punch parallel. So you can get that all from these right here. So here's the EQ. If you need EQ, it's all under audio effects. So you can see that's pretty clear. If you need roar is right in there too. Okay, if you need, let's see, what else could you need? Oh, your compressors. Here's your compressor right here. Okay, but you can use that one. And then there's a glue compressor, which is right here. This is the one I use for the bass. You can use it for drums too if you want. So you have your glue compressor and regular compressor. So check out the audio effects. Set up some of the audio effects on the tracks that you need. And then you don't have to do that every time. All right, if you're going to run MIDI into something, in other words, if you're going to use, like, let's say scalar or something of that sort, it's like an effects, right, that you're running into something else. Some of them work directly on the track. Some of them don't. Scalar doesn't. You have to put it on its own track. And then what you do is, what I like to do is set it to in, and then you can pick scalar and then scalar. And now anything you want to hear will run scalar into that. So you could do, if you wanted to run scalar into your bass, you pick scalar here. So this is your ends. You want to pick that right there. So get to know those little portions and you'll be set. Yeah. And this is all simple. Record, mute, unmute. Off means it'll record without you hearing it. Auto means it'll do both. And then in is just sending it into something. So I don't want to record on the scalar track, but I want to use the scalar stuff. So that's the way I route it for the MIDI. Okay, and there's my template. It's really basic. You see keys, bass, drums, effects, and then my master channel. That's it. Set that up, and then you want to go up to File, and you're going to go Save Live Set as Default Set. You could do it as a template. Default means every time it's going to open up, it's going to be this, right? Template means you have to go in and find that template if you want it. But if you have multiple templates, you can do that. I just do it as a default. And then anything that I need to change, I change it. So that's the basis of setting up a template.